urgency to dissolve the ego. My dear brothers, this message is to tell you to prepare, to warn you, to advise you to dissolve the ego, the self, the myself. Only the being can give rise to powerful civilizations of light. Only those who have already died to themselves will be victorious in the final hour. Only they will not enter the abyss. Only they will be able to come to the golden age, without the need to go through the second death. In my work titled, The Mystery of the Golden Bloom, you are taught how to use the lance. It is necessary to know how to handle Longinus' lance, the weapon of Eros, to destroy all those psychic aggregates that constitute the ego, the myself, the self. Undoubtedly, in the forge of the Cyclops, we can accomplish wonders. It is there that we can create the soma psychicon, that is, the wedding garment of the soul. It is also there where we can wield that marvelous weapon, the weapon of Eros, with which it is possible to destroy the psychic aggregates that constitute the self. When we have completely eliminated the ego, only the being, the divine, the perfect, will remain in us. Believe me, my dear brothers, in the name of truth, the ego makes us ugly in the most complete sense of the word. Those who carry the ego within them undoubtedly radiate left-handed, sinister, dark, abominable waves. When one has died to oneself, only beauty remains deep inside, and from that beauty emanates what is called love. How could we sincerely radiate love today if we carry the ego within? The ego must be destroyed so that only love remains in us. Hermes Trismegistus said, I give you love, in which is contained the entirety of wisdom. To love is fundamental. Love truly makes us wise in the fullest sense of the word, for it is the essence of wisdom. True wisdom, my dear brothers, is not of the mind, but of the being. It is a functionalism, let's say, of consciousness, a glorious synthesis of what is called love. Love is the pinnacle of all science, of all real and true knowledge. The mind, my dear brothers, does not know the truth. It is bottled up in the ego and knows nothing about the real. Let us destroy the ego, free ourselves from the mind, so that what is true, what is the being, the real, may remain in us. In The Mystery of the Golden Bloom, I teach how to handle that extraordinary weapon, the lance. With this weapon, we can disintegrate each of the psychic aggregates that constitute the myself. It is precisely in the forge of the Cyclops where we must invoke Devi, Kundalini, our particular divine cosmic mother, and she will eliminate this or that psychological defect, that is, this or that psychic aggregate, this or that I, or myself, that personifies this or that error. Obviously, she with her weapon can do it, and so we will be dying from instant to instant, from moment to moment. It is not enough to understand a defect, it is necessary, my dear brothers, to eliminate it. Understanding is not everything. Elimination is needed. We can label a defect with different names, move it from one department of the mind to another, etc., but never fundamentally alter it. We need a power superior to the mind, capable of eliminating this or that error. Fortunately, such power lies dormant within each of us. Obviously, I am speaking of Devi Kundalini, the fiery serpent of our magical powers. Only by imploring her can we get her to eliminate that defect that we have fully understood. Dying in this way, moment by moment, my dear brothers, the day will come when only the divine, the being, the real will dwell in the depths of each of us. Those who truly wish to be part of the future civilization, those who do not want to descend now, in these times, into the bowels of the earth, into the submerged involution, must dissolve the ego. We are, then, at a crossroads. Either we dissolve the ego by our own will, or it will be dissolved for us. If we do not resolve to dissolve it, if we do not disintegrate it, then nature will take care of it in the infernal worlds, in the infradimensions of the cosmos, within the living bowels of this planet we live on. But in what conditions? Even humanity will have to descend into the infernal worlds, that is, into the lake of burning fire and sulfur, which is the second death. So it is written, and it is necessary for it to perish. Thus, brothers, either we experience it individually so that the Son of Man is glorified, or we experience it collectively, but none of us can escape the terrible book of nature. I am referring to the Apocalypse of St. John. So, Holy Week is coming, and it is necessary to deeply understand it, meditate on that. We must remember that the cross bears the marks of the 3 nails and that above it is the word INRI, ignis natura renovator integram, fire incessantly renews nature. The 3 nails indicate the 3 purifications. The first corresponds to the first mountain, which I spoke about in my book titled, The 3 Mountains, that is, the first purification is initiation. The second corresponds to the mountain of the resurrection. It is properly embodied in 9 of the 12 labors performed by Hercules the solar man. The third purification takes place on the second mountain, before the resurrection of the Son of Man. It is on the summit of that radiant mountain that the 8 initiations received must be qualified. The initiations would be of no use if they were not qualified. One thing is to receive the initiations, and another is their qualification. So, do not forget that there are 3 purifications. They are the 3 days that Jesus remained in the Holy Sepulchre before his resurrection. They are the 3 days that Jonah spent inside the belly of the whale before being vomited out onto the shores of Nineveh. The Son of Man must remain 3 days in his Holy Sepulchre before the resurrection. He rises in the Father because the Father and the Son are one. Thus, brothers, I want you to begin understanding what Holy Week is. The qualification of the 8 initiations is carried out, I repeat, on the summit of the second mountain before the resurrection. Such qualification must always go through a period of 8 years, the 8 years during which Job, the great patriarch, was leprous, the 8 years of trial and pain, the 8 years of the Great Holy Week. There are 7 days in Genesis, 7 seals in the Apocalypse of St. John, but the number 8 is that of splendors. Each of us, if we want to reach the inner self-realization of the being, must live our own Holy Week. One must fully undergo the initiation of Malkuth, that is, the mysteries of the abyss. One must bring to complete perfection, to the highest qualification, the mysteries of Yesod, the mysteries of sex. One must pass through the initiation of Hod, the astral body. One must pass through the initiation of Netzacha, the mental body. One must pass through the initiation of Tifereth so that the Son of Man may be born within, die, and resurrect, the psyche among the dead. One must also pass through the initiation of Geburah, the superlative consciousness of the being, and through that of Chesed, the being, or the microprosopis, the small, or the king of the microcosmos. Lastly, one must pass through the initiation on the 8th day of Binah, so that the king may rise from his sepulchre and come into the world of form. The 7 days of Genesis are marvelously represented in each of these initiations. Undoubtedly, we must live Genesis within ourselves, here and now. We must create within ourselves an inner universe, and in doing so, we must do it in 6 days. Because on the 7th God rests, and on the 8th, he resurrects in his work, as it is written in Genesis. We must break each of the 7 seals of the great book, which is man. The first seal is that of Malkuth, the second that of Yesod, the third that of Hod, the fourth that of Netzacha, the fifth that of Tifereth, the sixth that of Geburah, the seventh that of Gedula. Genesis and Apocalypse complement each other, and it is our task to live Genesis individually and to realize within ourselves what the great Logos, architect of the universe, did when he created the world. We need to live the Apocalypse individually, if we do not want to live it collectively. There are 2 ways to live it, individually or collectively. Collectively, all of humanity is living it, and the final seal is about to be broken. So far, my brothers,